Hello, and welcome to Scott's Odyssey. In the mountains and forests of this gorgeous county of Huntingdon, Pennsylvania, lies a location that is not often advertised and was born out of a need of understanding and experimentation by the foremost natural conservation educational institution, the Pennsylvania State University. Welcome to the shore of Lake Perez in the Stone Valley Recreation Area. See you in a minute. Welcome back. If you've watched my videos before, thank you for your patronage, and I hope you enjoy this story about the experimental lake known by the name Perez. If you're new to Scott's Odyssey, welcome aboard, and please take a moment to subscribe for more of this journey through Odyssey stories of who we once were. Between the years 1933 and 1939, the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration had enacted the New Deal, a series of financial reforms, regulations, public works projects, and programs to help in the recovery from the Great Depression. I know a lot of you are saying that FDR's name was pronounced Roosevelt, but just to get this out of the way for future videos, Cornelius Corny von Schuck Roosevelt, a lieutenant commander of the Naval Reserve during World War II, and later the Chief of Technical Services Division in the Central Intelligence Agency, son of Brigadier General Theodore Ted Roosevelt Jr. and grandson of President Theodore Teddy Roosevelt, stated, "Our name is pronounced Roosevelt, and anyone who pronounces the first syllable as to rhyme with goose is to be admonished." This statement goes for both Theodore and his fifth cousin Franklin. The only difference in the pronunciation of the name came about when Alice Roosevelt Longworth, Theodore Roosevelt's daughter, decided to pronounce it as Roosevelt in order to distance herself from her ideologically opposed cousin while he was in office. With Roosevelt's New Deal came the arrival of public works programs and organizations such as the Civil Conservation Corps, as well as the Works Progress Administration, both of which I've spoken about on many occasions. In 1934, Penn State attempted repeatedly through the Farm Security Administration, later called the Resettlement Administration, to acquire large tracts of traded or liquidated lands from farms that were bankrupt or considered to be causing severe and permanent damage to the soil of their existing lands. So just in those few words, you could see that there was a dark side to this New Deal as it was pushing through Pennsylvania. But the argument was for preservation and conservation and the employment of large number of homeless and jobless people. Regardless of the means, Penn State had to purchase this land the old-fashioned way and was not granted any federal acquisition grants or assistance. With the politic out of the way, it wasn't until 1938 that Penn State was able to obtain rights to the Shavers Creek tract of land in the Stone Valley. The secondary reason for expressing this information is to relate to you that Penn State did not have the ability to obtain free labor from the PWA or the CCC, nor any free camps to assist them in the building of this experimental forest. Although there are debates of whether or not there were misappropriations of the Public Works Administration for the expansion of the university buildings and whether or not it was involved in the experimental forest and lake, the reality is, at this time, the point is moot at best. Based on the time period that the Forestry Lodge was first established, and because of some, but not all, of the manners in which the buildings were erected, there may have been some intervention by the CCC, whom remained in the area, which would have been Company 1381 or Owl's Gap Camp from Petersburg, most often misspelled or misreferenced as Owl's Gap, or Company 1355C from Gettysburg, where the hyphen C meant colored, representing one of our African American CCCs, who mainly performed the role as the aides and guides to over 8,000 still living Civil War veterans who attended Gettysburg reenactments and visitations. Lawrence J. Perez was a Pennsylvania State University professor of civil engineering who oversaw upgrades to land that was owned by the federal government. Over the course of 20 years, Lawrence J. Perez worked diligently and slowly at turning a 700-acre swampy area of farmland into the first man-made experimental forest dedicated to conservation and observation of native wildlife species. Let me know in the comments below if you know of stories and locations such as this one of Lake Perez and the experimental forest. My research is limited only by the information that people don't share openly. Help me break that barrier and let's share the history and culture of who we once were. In 1954, the land was ceded from the federal government to the Pennsylvania State University, and by 1961 became the centerpiece of a 700-acre Stone Valley recreation facility. The Stone Valley Recreation Area is now the formal name that encompasses an experimental forest, the Shavers Creek Environmental Center, and the 72-acre dammed impoundment known as Lake Perez in honor of Lawrence J. Perez. This site performs research critical to the understanding of habitat growth for many species of native animals to the Pennsylvania forests. From creation and through tribulation, the effects of man on nature and the environment are studied in depth through many different programs and research initiatives. The site also provides opportunity to the public for recreation. Nay, it depends on public recreation to show the effects, both positive and negative, of man on such an environment. But the experimental aspects of this location are not without fault. As I'm walking along, I'm observing all the different trees. There's a whole section of hardwood trees. There's a lot of pines, so many different things, so much work that has to be done. So it's not 100% let nature take its course. There's a lot of work that takes place here. There's a lot of undercutting of brush that's underneath, but there's a lot of different species of critters too. I just saw a snake. Handful of fishes. I'll see if I can actually catch pictures of it. Yes, I know I said fishes because if you have one trout, you have a fish. If you have two trout, you have two fish. But if you have a trout and a bass, you have fishes. That's how it works. One of the other things that I found was, I don't know what kind of bug it is. I'll do the research on it and see if I can't put it up on the screen. You know, you guys like the words up there in the pop-ups, I think. If you don't, let me know down in the comments. But here's one of those interesting bug finds. So if you know what these guys are, let me know. Let me know if they're good. Let me know if they're bad. They seem to be doing a really good job on the tree, but we'll find out below. Leave me a comment or I'll put it on the screen, one or the other. We'll see what happens. In 2002, the lake was drained to repair the spillway, which was failing, and the apparent cause of excess perk of water further down from the dam. After the fix, the lake was refilled, only to find that the downstream perk issue was still a problem. Although most information surrounding the exact issues are buried and no longer publicly available, unless you speak with people who live downstream from the dam, In 2007, just 2 years after being refilled, the lake was again drained under the auspices that they needed to repair structural deficiencies in underground seepage. In the last video, we went really deep into some natural Pennsylvania forest, where you were able to see the underbrush and the undergrowth. And although I've made a statement that this is a forest, it's an experimental forest, and it's open to the public, which makes it a park. So you're going to see the amenities of a park. If you come through here, as you can see behind me, there's some trail and clear cutting, but need to let you know that although it's open to the public, one of the interesting things is that they kind of planted along the sides in order to keep the forest natural. Let me give you an example. It's not that you can't get in here, but this is a pine barren. Pine barrens open up into large clearings, but along the edges of it, you can see here, you're not going to easily get through this. And you're definitely going to get scratched if you try to come through this. Look at that. You don't get to see them all the time. That's an apple. That's an honest to goodness apple. That's a piece of fruit that you don't want to eat because of the type of apple that it is. I'll give you a couple of pictures and explanation of that particular apple and what lies in the center of it. It's a very interesting apple. Don't eat it. Don't eat it. All right, a little bit further up the road, telling you about the apple. Well, I just happened to be walking along, and lo and behold, there is an apple on the ground. We're going to pick that one up so you could see live what's actually in this apple. Let me get things set up for you. So this apple is last year's apple. That's what it sounds like. You can see there's a hole in it. And let's do a little open. Sometimes you get lucky and it's this year's. Might still be too early. My knife needs sharpening. Aha! So here's your inside. This is all from an animal that was living in here. That was his little tiny inside eggshell, and we lose it due to the wind. I'll give you more pictures. This seemingly minor attention to fixing a little structural deficiency in underground seepage would end up costing the university over $3 million and nearly 8 years to correct, with a closing statement that we're hoping this was the last time and hopefully it won't need work again in our lifetime. Regardless of all that, one thing I will say about this particular location is that after all the centuries of farming, logging, mining, dam building, rural and urban expansion, and all the consummate ecological crisis that come with those factors, Perez, even as a civil engineer, took the path of nearness to nature and like the words of Henry David Thoreau proclaim that every creature is better alive than dead, and he who understands it aright will rather preserve its life than destroy it. Hey there, little buddy. You just enjoying the grass like me? Are you just enjoying the park like me, little buddy? You're awfully cute. You're really tiny. Really, really tiny. Hey. We'll leave him be. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment below. At the time of this video, I do respond to all your comments, so make sure you make a comment. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. I see you. Not gonna hurt you.